customer expectations in the past couple of years. Um, and of course, whenever you're the one doing it, you really don't see all your blind spots. You kind of need outside advice to say, hey, you're doing this wrong. You need to work on your customer experience.
I've heard a lot of people talk about how they end up having friendships or business connections with people uh, at the trade school. So instead of going to these trade shows and competing directly with the dealerships, because they have an interpersonal relationship with one of the teachers at the Votech, they then say, hey, you got to check out John. I think he'd be perfect for your shop, better than a dealership. Hello, this is Brad Herlock, your host for the Garage Grid podcast and owner of AA Shop Marketing, a digital marketing company for repair shops. I paused and hesitated there because I'm also one of two business owners, one of principals for AA Shop Marketing. I'm not the sole owner, but I am your sole host for the Garage Grid podcast. And so I'm happy to have you here listening to this episode. As you know, we're constantly trying to help shops grow and improve processes or their situation, and we're trying to set up a scenario, an environment where we're having conversations with each other, we're learning from each other, we're sharing our stories to help each other, again, grow and improve. And if you're not trying to grow and improve, then maybe this podcast isn't right for you. But if you are in the right place. And so keep listening, because I'm excited to share with you Alex's story. And, when I first started talking with him, hopefully, Alex, I'm not going to embarrass you for saying this, you were hesitant to come on our show because you only have 5 years in, and that's plenty. And so if you're new to shop operations, this is going to be a great episode for you, because Alex has a lot to share. He's got a lot of insights, and when I talk with him, it sounds like he's got a lot more than just 5 years of experience, and we're going to learn a little bit about that. But before we do, Alex, why don't you tell us a little bit about your shop? Thank you, by the way, for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So we sell a lot of tires. We have been since 1969. My grandfather started the shop in 69, and before that, he was actually working for a different shop, who is now one of our competitors. Left that facility, started selling tires out of the back of a truck. Then he moved into a shed. Business was good, and he just kept moving and moving. Bought a piece of property, probably 1971 or so, and that's where the shop has been to this day, albeit a little bit expanded. We are probably the highest volume tire dealer in our area, and the thing that makes us unique is that up until recently, we never did any kind of mechanical work. No automotive repair, no maintenance, anything, not even an oil change. Up until I took over in 2021, we started integrating a mechanical program. So that's where I am right now, trying to, as I mentioned earlier when we were talking, speeding up by slowing down, making a little bit more money, increasing the ARO, serving the customer better as far as serving their car more thoroughly. But with that comes having to slow down, do better inspections, and explain what we're doing to customers.
Yeah, the customers that have been with you for decades are like, what are you doing? What are you talking about? I've got a repair shop that I use down the street. You just put the tires on for me. And have you had individual conversations with any of the customers just like that?
Yeah. We've definitely learned a lot about customer expectations in the past couple of years. Um, and of course, whenever you're the one doing it, you really don't see all your blind spots. You kind of need outside advice to say, hey, you're doing this wrong. You need to work on your customer experience. And what we were doing was, okay, you're in for a tire rotation. Well, while your wheels are off, let's do a complimentary measurement of your brakes, which is good for customers, I think, because they can't see their own brakes. And then we present the information to them, whether the brake specs are good or bad. It's not really a sales pitch. It's just a health analysis of the vehicle. But what we found is if you do that and you don't tell the customer that you're going to do it, some of them are thankful, but some of them react poorly. They say, well, I didn't want that. You didn't tell me you were going to do an invasive inspection of my vehicle. So sometimes they feel like we invaded their space. And other times, especially in our situation, it's a time requirement thing. Back in the day, meaning 1969 up to 2020, if you pulled a car into my shop for a tire rotation, we would have 4 people on that rotation. They would just come at the car like a NASCAR crew. Everyone unbolts a wheel, everyone checks the air pressure in their tire, and then they rotate around and bolt it on. There's Charlie.
Charlie,
Of
how are you?
course.
Can you see me? Can you give me a wave, Charlie? There you go. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Nice. Yeah, Dad's on the camera. That's nice. I like it. All right, good. Well, one of the things that I love about this space, I've said this so many times before, I love how it's often multi-generational. And so that's great. So we'd like to see the next owner of Skander Tire in 25 years, right? So all right. So I keep thinking about I mean, what does that conversation look like? So I've been coming to you for tires for 15 years, and now for the first time, you are about to give me a low grade DVI. What did that conversation look like?
So like I was saying before Charlie made his on-camera debut, yeah, if you don't say anything and you just do it, I would say probably 80% of customers still appreciate it, especially when there's not a sales pitch associated with it, especially if it's like, hey, tire rotation, by the way, your lights and wipers and brakes and suspension components are all good. 80% of those people I say appreciate it. A good 20% are taken aback just because we didn't announce that we were going to do it.
Now that you are announcing it, what does that conversation look like? So I come in I haven't been to you since you started doing this. Hypothetically, I come in and go to drop my car off. Like, who do you have at the front desk? Is it you? Is it somebody else? And what does the messaging look like? Sound like?
So I guess before I talk about the messaging, I don't want to take credit for this messaging. Back to what I was saying about blind spots. I thought we were doing everything right. You know, you should be doing DVIs. So we started doing DVIs. Great. It was actually, we can talk about him later, but there's someone I work with in a 20 group that I participate in. Before he even stepped foot in my shop, he was able to deduce from looking at my Google reviews that we weren't telling customers that we were going to do a thorough inspection. He looked back. He has a lot of free time. He read all 430 of my Google reviews. Way back in the day, you know, we had some 1-star reviews, some 5-star reviews, mostly 5s. And then there was a certain period in time where there were some reviews that were 1-star, 4 stars, that had a mixture of tones saying, yeah, they're okay, but they got in my stuff and looked at a lot of stuff they didn't tell me they were going to look at, and they tried to sell me all this stuff. And a lot of customers attributed that to change. The younger generation is taking over. It's not the same Skander Tire that we know and trust. And this coach of mine was able to pick up on the fact that we were not announcing that we were going to do a DVI or a thorough inspection. He was able to pick up on that just by reading Google.
So how did he tell you to have that conversation?
He simplified it, and he basically gave me a checklist. He said at the front counter, obviously say, and I'm going to butcher this because I don't have the checklist in front of me, but I do it every day. So obviously say hello to the customer. Hey, Mrs. Jones, how are you? What can we do for you today? Listen to their concern. Don't just sell them stuff. Actually find out what is the problem with their vehicle. Try to be a problem solver instead of an order taker. And then let's say she's here for an oil change. What we were doing before was pulling the car in for an oil change, and then just sending her a DVI and saying, "Hey, look at your phone. We sent you something." That was sloppy on our part. What we do now is we say, "Hey, Mrs. Jones, we'll pull your car in for an oil change. By the way, just so you know, we do a totally free, relatively non-invasive multi-point inspection that will be sent to the phone number that you provided." Um, and then we wait and see how they react. Some people say, "Oh, that's great. You're going to check my fluids. You're going to check my tread depth." Um, and then we just talk about it a little bit more. We'll tell them, and our DVI is it's like an 8-point inspection. It's all the low hanging fruit, just very obvious stuff. Yeah. If that piques their interest, then we explain it further and say, yeah, we're going to check your external lights. We're going to check for pre-existing damage, your brake pad thickness, your tread depth. All of that will be sent to you either by phone or email, text or email. If instead, and I get this a lot from the customer who has his own mechanic or is his own mechanic or is skeptical of us that we're going to use this inspection to upsell them. Sometimes we say, okay, Mrs. Jones, we're going to do this complimentary multi-point, and she'll just say, no, just the tires. I don't want any of that. We'll kind of renegotiate a little bit, and we'll say, well, it's free and it doesn't take any longer. Are you interested in a complimentary health check on your car? Most people, once you affirm to them that it is free, it won't take any longer, and we're not taking the car apart any further than we were going to do because of the initial repair, most people then say, okay, yeah, sure, go ahead and do it. There's a very small subset of customers who just don't want anything to do with it. They say, don't look at my brakes, don't send me a digital vehicle inspection, just do the tire rotation. For that, and my service advisors and technicians, because we're new at DVIs, so they still, the employees come to me asking, what do I do in this situation? I tell them, do the DVI anyways, and don't send it to the customer. Because our DVI is very non-invasive. If you're in for an oil change, we don't measure your brakes. We don't take wheels off unless we've been invited to do so. But
I'm just wondering
go
about
ahead.
that because I want to push back a little bit, and this is a question for your coach and your 20 group. What if you find something? So the customer said no, you do it anyway. You find something that could be hazardous to her health or the health of other people on the road near her because the brakes are too low, or the car is dangerous. There's no fluids in it that she didn't ask you to fill the fluids, but she doesn't have any oil in her car. Like whatever the case. What do you do? You've already committed to not doing it, not sending it, but you're going to do it just so that you have data on this person. I feel like part of you is obligated to raise the flag that. And that,
Yeah,
so that
100%.
Feel free to respond to it, but that's a question for your coach and your 20 group, I guess.
So I think that we're kind of talking about two different things. I know this from dealing with my team because the digital aspect of it, the fact that it's on an iPad and it gets texted, some of my older employees, some of my customers who just aren't tech savvy, that just makes them skeptical of the whole process. So, I mean, let's just chop the D right off the front. Let's just do a VI. I think the medium that you're using to do the inspection really isn't that important. Yeah, DVIs are more effective, but yeah, to that customer who doesn't want the digital vehicle inspection, okay, we'll just pretend that we didn't do it, but we're going to do it anyways. I think that's the same as if you were doing a tire rotation and you're not looking for an upsell, but you happen to notice that someone's lower ball joint has a lot of play in it. You're not going to not tell that person about it. You don't have to send it to them digitally, but you should mention to your advisor, and most importantly, recommend it on the invoice and decline our POS,
Got it.
just like many other
All right. So
people.
if
I'm
you
sure
come
they have
across
a
something that's glaring, you're still mentioning that one off, but you're not giving them the formal inspection report. Got it.
yeah. For the customer who didn't want
Yep.
uh the inspection, yeah, we're not going to waste time saying like, hey, that inspection you didn't want, we did it anyways. Your brakes are great.
Yeah, that would not go over well. So
no,
yeah,
we're just,
that's probably for the best.
yeah.
I got it then. Okay. All right. So
And I had
did you tell me? I'm trying to recall if you actually did talk about the size of your shop, like how many people you have there, how many serve.
no, we have a total of
Yep.
27 employees. Um, we have on average, not that we have a tremendous amount of turnover, but for instance, we just hired 2 new
Okay.
technicians in the past 2 weeks. Lost 2 the month before. We always hover around
Okay.
27-ish. I have 25.
Any tips and tricks on how to
Um,
find those technicians? So many shops are looking.
no, I was going to ask you.
Okay. All right. Well, I could tell you what some of
Well,
the things I will volunteer some things that I have seen work. Uh, don't just place an ad asking for a technician. Sell culture. What I'm trying to say is show how great it is to be one of the 27 at your shop by whether it's on social media or other ways to try to share with the prospective, not just the customers, but also the prospective employees that are out there looking at you, Instagram or your Google profile or Facebook, and or even TikTok, I suppose. But just to let everyone know what it's like to work there and make them want to find you. Like, what are the other selling features or benefits of working for you? And keep in mind, the dollar amount is still going to be the leader on those decisions. But and then what we've done in the past is we've actually ran ads on Facebook trying to help shops. So we run a lookalike campaign, and you try to find people who are maybe a mechanic at a dealership or whatnot, and then you do a lookalike campaign to that particular group in a particular area. And I don't recommend leading with "we're hiring" because even today it was even more white noise around COVID, but even today it's still white noise. Everybody's hiring, right? So I often recommend that you just lead with, we're doing a survey for mechanics in your area. And then when they fill out the results that they say that they're not particularly fond of their management or their coworkers, then you do another ad to that particular group that actually responded saying that you're hiring. 2 phases. Kind of giving out the whole details of how it could work. But those are just some of the tips and tricks that we've seen be effective to try to grow, get the word out. But like I said, I found that we're hiring ads are such white noise. I have had several shops tell me about a handful of different in previous podcasts about different programs or apps or companies that they're using. Some are specials for the auto repair space. Some aren't. I want to say Better Teams was one of them recently, but they're not specific to the auto repair business. And so sometimes it's just nice to delegate, but of course that's a more expensive route. The one I just gave you was the low cost route, do it yourself type approach, right? So, so you had trouble hiring those 2 people, but you hired them within a month of losing the other 2, so it couldn't have been too bad.
Yeah, it's not horrible. Our business model, I think, is a little bit easier to hire for than someone who is looking for a techs, because honestly, the type of work that we do is still very heavily tire based. So, I mean, I have 2 really good mechanics who can do HVAC. They can diagnose starting systems. One's doing a water pump right now. But the main demand that we have is
You
just
do have another
tires,
spot.
brakes, oil.
Yep. You have a broader base that you can actually pull from. So that makes sense.
Yeah, so I can, and I'm TIA certified as a trainer for commercial and automotive tire installation. So for me to hire a kid right out of high school with no experience, as long as he or she is good with their hands and can show up, we
Nice.
can train them to be
Are
an
there any
entry
trade
level
schools in
tech.
the area?
Relative. There are. We've only dabbled in speaking to them. Last November we had a booth at was it Butler County Votech. And I sent a service advisor there to hand out business cards, water bottles, brochures. He gave me feedback on the event. He said the car dealerships that showed up there had so much more swag. They were so much better prepared. Um, so we actually, I spoke to my wife about it. We're going again this November, and I told my wife, because she's the planner, um, let's start thinking about it right now. What we give to young people that is going to get
Another
them
thing quickly.
interested.
You ready for this? Look into Facebook advertising.
Already.
I haven't done it in a little bit, but I'm pretty certain you're still able to do a geofence type ad. And I want you to dial in that geofence as much as it will let you. And I want you to be targeting. I want you to, in the ad, I want you to say, we are at this event. Stop by our booth. I want the geofence to be so tight that while they pass your booth without picking up your swag, they get an ad on their phone via Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, and that you are there.
Okay. And can you do that directly on Facebook yourself, or do you need to have a marketing company set that up?
Both are options, but yeah, you can look into it yourself. It's available to you. It's not limited to marketing companies, but that's something that I would definitely check out to try to. I mean, I love the idea of them seeing you and then being reminded about you, even after the event, or seeing about you and then coming up to your booth. Both are great. So hit them both ways. I've heard a lot of people talk about how they end up having friendships or business connections with people at the trade school. So instead of going to these trade shows and competing directly with the dealerships, because they have an interpersonal relationship with one of the teachers at the Votech, they then say, hey, you got to check out John. I think he'd be perfect for your shop, better than a dealership. I'm going to send John your way. Right? And John's just a random name that I selected. Right? So, but you kind of get my point, is that if you can develop those relationships, he might actually, or she might actually kind of point students in your direction, bypassing the need for the trade show.
Yeah.
But, but that's a long-term play, right? So I've heard shops talk about how they have that relationship. I've also heard them talk about how they get involved at the trade school by being, say, on the board, or just in other ways that they are volunteering. You can use my shop for one of your training sessions, or like however you can. How do you connect with that school outside of just that show, that career show?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. We've definitely only just scratched the surface of seeing what opportunities are available to us from the trade schools. And like I said, we did something last year, and we showed up relatively unprepared.
Well, that's part of the journey. I mean, you've just started this whole thing 5 years ago, but let's back up. How much were you involved in the shop prior to 2020? Did you grow up there? Were you always over there after school? That's where you were. Like, talk to me about your origin story.
Yep. So just like Charlie behind us, if you're watching on camera, I was in there. Actually, Charlie and I were rolling junk tires out to the guys this morning. He was helping us with our scrap tires. He's about a year and a half old, and he's already helping out at the shop. I would say I was about 8 years old when I started changing tires. And of course, this is back in the day when we did no mechanical work, so it was just tire installations. So relatively easy to learn. But yeah, started sweeping the floors, got up to the level of a tire technician. I would say, and running road service as well. I remember whenever I was in my early teen years, I wouldn't drive the trucks, obviously, but I would be the passenger with our road crew. And I remember my dad got a phone call one time from a construction foreman that said, "Hey, Randy, you got a kid on my construction site. You got a 12-year-old running a crane on a boom truck, fixing a 20.525 loader tire. You got to call OSHA. What's going on here?" And my dad just said, "Well, is he doing a good job?" And the guy was like, "Yeah." Um, So yeah, we definitely did a
That's
lot of stuff
for
that,
those listening who work for the government, that's a hypothetical situation, just a fictitious story, nothing to worry about here.
yeah, yeah, hypothetical. But yeah, through my teen years, I did some farm service, changing truck tires, calcium
Right.
flats,
Okay.
all that kind of stuff. I would say it was um in college probably that I started working in the office, more as a service advisor, learning that side of it, which being a service advisor at a tires only location is much, much easier than trying to be a service advisor at a full fledged mechanical shop. Because it's basically, hey, what tire size goes on this car? Okay, what kind of tires do I want to sell today? The pretty much the only difficulty were mileage warranties. Um, but throughout college, I bounced back and forth between working on the front counter, out in the shop with the guys, out in the road service trucks. Then it was, I would say, 2019 or so that I would have considered myself an unofficial assistant manager, just in terms of the added responsibilities that my parents were okay with me taking on. Um, like a lot of the family businesses out there, that did not come with a raise, that did not come with a job description, just came with, hey, Junior, do this. Um, which definitely a learning opportunity for me. Like with Charlie, who was just here, um, if he decides to join my company later, um, I'm going to have a job description for him. I'm going to have expectations for him. Going to be on the payroll. Uh, Back to when I was 8 years old and older, it was all again. This is a hypothetical story. This is a fake tire shop. None of this actually ever happened, but it was all cash under the table. Um, but man, I would have loved to have had an IRA when I was 8 years old and just start saving for retirement at such an early age. But it was cash, and I was in middle school, so I just spent it all on pizza. But yeah, probably 2019, I took on a little bit more of an involved management role. 20, my dad was, and my dad's still alive and well, just happily retired. That's when he was phasing himself out. And then we ended up transferring ownership in 2021, and here we are. It, it was interesting growing up with them and learning business from them because there was absolutely no business training. I didn't learn how to read a P&L until I took over. Yeah, it was crazy that they made it as far as they did, and they did a great job. But they did so largely flying blind. A
Yeah.
lot of gut feeling,
Well, and
which is
that's been
scary.
the story of a lot of shops across the United States, right? And probably maybe the country or maybe the world, I mean, but definitely across the country. It's just, this is what we've done. This is what we know how to do. And now we've got a bunch of employees also doing it.
It's so common. It really is. The number of shops that are flying blind. Like they have, this is what they do. They let you have employees that do the same thing, and now they own a business, right? But they don't necessarily know how to read a P&L or what that means. At what point did you say, "Oh my gosh, I need a coach"?
Um, we got into a little bit of a cash crunch. I want to say it was definitely within the first year or year and a half. And one of the issues that we have where I'm in the Pittsburgh area. So imagine being in an area that has four seasons and you don't do any mechanical work or any maintenance. You just do tires. So our seasonality was extreme. October, November, a little bit of December, we sell tires like crazy, driven by snowfall and the fear of loss of traction in snowfall. January and February, we basically every year we just lose money because there's nothing to be sold. There's no demand for tires in January. If you didn't get good winter tires in November, you're not going to buy them in January. You're going to keep on, yes, you're driving white knuckled in constant fear. And then March and April, we would put summer tires back on. So it was a profitability roller coaster. Even not standing very much about how to read a P&L, I could still feel that. Not to conflate busyness with profitability, but there's some relationship there as far as car count goes. We have a habit of just to be good to our employees, and because it's so hard to find employees, in January and February, I don't lay people off. I don't say, hey, my P&L says that I can't afford you. I don't fire people in January and then desperately look for people in April. So I think it was Q1 of probably my second year in business. This is when I was really managing the business from my bank account. Okay, we have this much money in the bank. We're in really good shape. I just noticed that particular time we didn't have that much money in the bank. And I thought, well, drastically different from what I'm used to seeing. Payroll was definitely the biggest drag on that. So then I think I did a little bit of research, and I ended up finding this coach in a magazine, Modern Tire Dealer. The dealer-to-dealer development group that I joined used to be affiliated with MTD. So they were pushing this group through ads in the magazine. I got on a call with them, not really knowing what to expect. They did their sales pitch, of course. I ended up, I don't want to say it's expensive, but it's an amount of money that you have to be a serious shop owner to want to spend that kind of money, which is nice because it kind of filters out people. At our meetings, there's no one there who's half invested. And they taught me a lot, how to read the P&L, how to manage payroll a little bit better. Most importantly, how to sell mechanical services. It was, it's been, I would not say sailing ever since, but definitely the best decision I've ever made.
You got a degree in a matter of months as far as how to run a shop.
Yeah, they gave me actionable steps.
Okay. So you didn't interview multiple. You interviewed the first one that you interviewed. You really liked what they had to say, and you went forward with it. It was an investment, but it was a worthwhile investment. You're very pleased that you went there.
Yeah.
Do you want to give a shout out to your coach or the company that you
absolutely.
ended up using?
It's called Dealer to Dealer Development Group, D2D for short. Randy O'Connor is the leader of this group. He's actually the owner as well. He a long boring story, but he purchased it from the company that either owns MTD magazine or was affiliated with them. So it went from being the coach, an employee of, I think it was Endeavor Business Media, to he went out and bought the company. So now it's totally his. And they do a lot of cool things. They have a dashboard where you can punch in your financials. 3 times a year, we meet up at someone's shop. We all fly in. This past June, it was my shop. We meet. Oh yeah, it was horrible.
That's why I said ouch, because I understand how those things go. How small, on a scale of like, give it a size like inches, how small did you feel? Like 2 inches, 1 inch?
So
you were tight.
Conditioned that.
It was
because whenever I joined the group, I said, "Hi, I'm Alex. I sell tires. I don't understand financials." I'd like to be fully transparent about that kind of stuff. Whenever they toured my shop, it was shortly after I shut down my retread facility. We actually used to retread tires in my shop. We realized that was not that profitable. Basically, everything was wrong with it. It wasn't safe. It wasn't profitable. It wasn't clean. The type of insurance I had to carry to have a retread facility was so expensive. On and on. It was a difficult decision to make, but I closed down the retread shop. And what I did with that space was put some new lifts in. just to pivot our go-to-market strategy a little bit, to get out of trying to bend over backwards to serve the guy who wants to buy 8 drives on a farm truck and make this much profit on that, and pivot towards the homeowner who has 2 minivans, who needs his or her cars inspected. A little bit more of a retail customer mindset. But I digress. So we shut down our retread shop shortly before my 20 group peers visited my shop. And even to this day, the place is a mess. We have scrap metal just laying around, big piles of garbage that need cleaned up. We have a 28,000 square foot building and a pretty large outdoor area. So it's not as if we're trying to trip over garbage as we're working on cars. We just have some unsightly spots around the backside of the shop, nothing customer facing. So honestly, the biggest complaint that I had from my peers in the 20 group was, hey, certain spots of your shop are a big eyesore. You got to clean up. You got to get this garbage out of here. That was pretty much the biggest criticism they had. Yeah, it was. I was nervous going in. Honestly, the biggest takeaway that I had, and this is something that I've focused a lot of my effort on since we had this meeting in June, was another thing that we were doing wrong, another thing that I was blind to, because when you're in it, you can't see it from an outside point of view. I have, depending on the day, I have anywhere from 4 to 7 service advisors, and then anywhere from 13 to maybe 17 technicians. And what we were doing was letting the service advisors basically pick which technician they wanted to work with and then which bay the vehicle went into.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Keep
see
in
it being
mind,
a problem.
the services that we offer are pretty simple. I mean, day in and day out, we're doing brakes, tire rotations, 4 new tires. We're not diagnosing. We're not doing complicated ADAS calibrations. We do very few AC jobs. So for most of my techs can do most of the jobs in our shop. So it wasn't
Understood.
really a personality issue of, well, this advisor only wants to work with that tech. That wasn't the issue. The issue was I would have one service advisor making plans for my bay number 1, garage door number 1. And while they were making those plans, a different advisor also was making plans for garage bay number 1. And we were ending up double booked and confused. So what my coach advised me to do was have an expediter, almost like an air traffic controller, someone whose only job is to be the liaison between the customers, the advisors, and the technicians, just to manage the flow. Because we have 15 bays and 2 road service trucks. So if you don't have one person to manage the traffic in and out of all of those bays and updating customers on the progress on the jobs, and instead you have 7 people trying to manage that, just
they're tripping over each other.
I was 100% blind to that. And since June, we've been using one of my GMs as the expediter, and it's been so much less confusing.
Good. Are they doing it manually, or are they using a software application to try to help them navigate that?
So unfortunately, we are using 2 redundant systems. We haven't really found a way out of it yet. But we do use AutoFlow for our digital vehicle inspections. They have a pretty nice graphic workflow that you can have on the screen in front of you. That'll basically let you figure out which stage the car is in. It's basically like a line graph with different sections in it, static. So it starts out with this vehicle is checked in. No one's working on it yet. The next stage is we're doing our inspection. We're doing our DVI. The next stage is we sent the DVI, we're waiting on approval from the customer. Then there's waiting on parts. Then there's servicing. Then there's a button that says ready. When you hit ready, we'll actually text the customer and let them know their car is ready. So that we use that for the temporal status of the car, but it either doesn't do a good job or we haven't learned how to use it yet for the spatial status. We have 15 bays. Sometimes we touch 70 cars a day. I haven't figured out a way in AutoFlow to specify which bay a car is in. So we use a redundant system, and it's kind of silly, but we just use Google Excel sheets. We have a sheet, and it's basically a to-do list. Sometimes in the morning, we'll have 10 customers walk in at the same time, all within between 7:50 and 8:15. So we'll just write in order. This is John Smith. He's here for a rotation. This is Mrs. Jones. She's here for an oil change. Just an in-order to-do list. And the other reason that we've had to keep that system, because it is, I'm sure, a little outdated and basic, but we're still in farm country. A lot of the jobs that we do are not on cars. Sometimes people bring in a wheelbarrow flat, a skid loader flat. Sometimes people will drop off 4 rims and they need 12 5L15 implement tires installed on them. So to my knowledge, I can't use AutoFlow's workflow to manage all of those non-vehicle jobs. And we're nervous that if we go all in on AutoFlow's workflow tracking, those jobs are going to have, they might get forgotten about or skipped, done out of order.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. And by the way, it sounds like you like AutoFlow. It sounds like it's overall been a good experience. It's just that one hiccup that kind of has that overlap. And you're not the only one I've heard talk positively on AutoFlow. Episode 10 of the Garage Grid podcast, we actually had 3 different shop owners talking to each other about how they're using their CRM to manage their customers. And AutoFlow was one of those CRMs. And so episode 10 of the Garage Grid podcast is also worth the listen, to check that out if you want to learn more about AutoFlow. All right. So back to, what else you're using. What other technology, platforms are you leveraging to manage the shop?
I wish I could say just one. I wish that either someone would develop one program that could do everything. I haven't found that program yet. One of the other examples, I already told you I use 2 systems, one for DVIs and car workflow, one for just keeping track of our to-do list. The other thing that we do that some of your other listeners may not do is mobile road service. We do this for primarily the commercial leg of the business. This involves no mechanical work, tires only. But say if you have a tractor trailer with an 11/22/5 flat tire, you're stuck on the side of the road.
Yep.
We send a truck out. We do this.
Okay. So it's specifically, the mobile service is specifically for emergency situations for your commercial
even
customers.
Specifically emergency. I mean, I hate emergencies. Say you have a truck at your shop, and it needs 8 new tires put on, and you don't have a driver, and you want us to come to your shop and install them. That's a non-emergency but still mobile situation. We also do a lot with tractors, agricultural tractors, construction equipment.
Okay.
I believe yesterday one of my technicians was doing a 30.532 16-ply log skidder tire. One of those big articulating machines with the claws that rip trees out of the ground. We do a little bit of that work. So obviously when we're in the office, we're trying to track where our trucks are. We can't use AutoFlow for that. And AutoFlow, if you're listening to this, figure out a way to track.
maybe I'll reach out to AutoFlow for you and share this video with them. All right. So maybe I'll do that. All right. So tell me more about that challenge.
All we really need is a calendar, because people will schedule their road service days in advance. They'll say, hey, I have a tractor tire that's losing air, but I don't need it fixed right now. Can you get it out to us sometime this week? My dad used to keep all this information on a piece of paper, which is great if you're a one-man shop. But when you had, at that time, probably 3 or 4 people answering the phones, those people didn't even know what the schedule was.
Right. Yep. So now you've just been curious. Back in 2018, how many employees were there at the shop? Ballpark it. I'm trying to gauge how many, as far as the number of employees, how much
a little bit fewer. I mean, yeah, it always ebbs and flows a little bit, but we're about 27 now.
Yep.
I would probably say 22, give or take.
Okay. All right. All right. So a couple different thoughts with all that you were sharing there. One of them was we have another episode. I don't have the number in front of me. A guy named Scott Blair, and he is a coach for mobile mechanics and mobile tire shop. So he actually sets up a van, and he actually comes and coaches different people on how to have a mobile arm to your business. And I found that to be really, really interesting because that's what he's done. And he avoids and this is kind of why you reminded me of it, because he actually avoids the emergency side. He does not do emergency work. It's all scheduled stuff. And it's more of a concierge type approach where you go to them, right? As opposed to them coming to you. And so you just reminded me of that when you were saying part of what you're doing is with the mobile is just that. So that's why I brought that up. So you have a bunch of different facets to the business that, what other software platforms are you using?
For that one, for scheduling, I did a little bit of research, tried a couple things. I first just did the Google Calendar, but it had some limitations.
I was gonna guess that's where you tried, but go ahead.
But then there was, it was difficult to manage the users, and there was a tendency for people to want my Google password so they could log in on their phone, but then they have access to our email, and that's no good. The one that we ended up picking is called Time Tree. I have no positive or negative feelings about it. It's a free calendar. You can get it on your desktop. You can get it on a phone. You can add users to it. So I could.
Is it specific to the repair world? Or is it
it's for anybody. If you want to figure out when your kids have soccer practice or when you're going to rad on a podcast, it's just a calendar. But you can invite people to participate in your calendar. But I could text you a link. My calendar, I think it's called Skander Tire Road Service Calendar. I could text you a link, and then you could make an account and participate on my calendar. Pretty much the only other feature that we use is you can set statuses for a particular date. So if you were going to pick up little Jimmy from soccer practice, and that's scheduled for tomorrow, you could build different statuses, and you could say, like, this is happening or this is canceled. Soccer practice is. So I actually have, I think 8 different statuses. One for needs to be done. This road call needs to be done tomorrow. Another for dispatched, meaning the technician is en route to that location. I have another one for possibly dispatched. So let's say Friday morning rolls around and we have 3 jobs on the schedule, and a service advisor or my technician calls all 3 people. And of course, we try to optimize our travels. We're not going to head 50 miles north and then 75 miles south. We're trying to schedule things in the same neighborhoods on the same day. So what if 2 of the 3 customers answer and say, yes, I'm confirming this road service appointment, but the 3rd customer doesn't answer, but you're literally driving past that customer's farm? we'll have my technician load up the tires, the tubes, the fluids, whatever you would need. Because it sure would be a shame if the customer calls back 2 hours later and says, "Oh yeah, I am ready for this service."
Right.
We say,
I'm here.
"Oh,
Yeah.
you should have called 2 hours later or earlier."
Right. Right.
So long word, I don't want to bore you
Right.
with all my 8 different statuses, but you can assign different statuses to the events in calendar.
Okay. I'm just curious on how, like, you invite the customer to the calendar and they can pick when they want the service.
I invite my service advisors and road service technicians to it.
Okay. So the call comes in and then they add them to the calendar manually. It's not a customer facing thing. Okay. Got it. All right. Good. All right. So, well, it's obvious that you've grown a lot just in the last few years, from a process standpoint, from how you look at the business and what you're trying to change. What's next? What's on your radar is it just going to be more of the same, or do you have very specific things you're going to be trying to tackle in 2020?
Things. I think we're in good shape right now, but I'm not really one to rest on our laurels or sit back and relax. I don't think good enough is ever good enough. I'm all about getting better.
Yep.
I am moving forward with the purchase of a second location. It'll be about 25 minutes away from location number 1. It'll be quite a bit smaller, which I think is good. Right now, like I said, I'm operating out of a 28,000 square foot building. There's no one place in my building where you can stand and see every bay, which is, it's difficult to manage just from a personnel standpoint. The second location, I just founded, actually finished applying for the mortgage on it this morning before we were talking. It's 6 bays all in a line, small waiting room, almost no storage area, aka no areas for garbage to accumulate. So just smaller, simpler. That's definitely the plan for 2026. But
you're not replacing your current one, you're just adding to it. Yep. And do you have a plan for cleaning up? I mean, that was one of the biggest things that was recommended from the 20 group. That's not an easy thing. That's a chip away thing, right? If you try to do it all at once, it'll stress out.
Exactly.
It costs you a fortune.
Back to how I said earlier in Q1, when our tire business drops down a little bit, I really don't lay people off. I don't like to cut too many hours. So honestly, as far as cleaning up scrap metal we have laying around, right now our plan is to do nothing about it. But in Q1, I'm going to take all those production-based employees and transfer them into tidying up employees.
Yep. Get them business cards. It's janitorial staff, whatever. Here's your new role for the next 2 months. Have at it. And so, are you concerned you might lose some people over that?
People who have been with me long enough, they know that whenever the first quarter run rolls around, you're going to paint, you're going to clean. Totally to be expected. The alternative is I slash their hours and they don't make enough money. So they're all happy to do it. And another point about that, like I said, this morning, my son Charlie and I were helping my team throw scrap tires into the recycling trailer. Especially in my situation, in which I have some employees who are much older than me. I do very much enjoy showing them that I don't mind doing the work with them. I don't mind getting dirty. Whenever it comes time to load scrap metal into our trailers, I'm going to be the one spearheading that process.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, since you're tackling processes and going through, this growth process, I imagine you are tackling new processes, right? And I think we touched on it a little bit or alluded to it with some of the things that we've said. What does that look like right now? Are you doing any of that? Are you actually writing down things? Are you taking videos?
Yeah.
How are you doing
again, just on Google Drive, just coming up with documents. The way So of course we have job descriptions, and they're vague. They're just
Yep.
something
Mention
that
that.
you would
Mhm.
put on Indeed to say this is you are going to do if you work
Okay.
here. Um, what I've done after that, however, is write standard operating procedures. The analogy that I always use for my staff, it makes sense to me. I don't know if it makes sense to them, but this is how I view it, and that might be part of the problem. But I think of my shop as a restaurant. Whether or not a good analogy for what the customer wants when they come in is to be debated, but I have 7 service advisors. They should all present the product the same way. It's no good if 5 of my advisors quote a set of 4 tires and don't recommend road hazard warranty, and then the other 2 quote 4 tires and recommend road hazard. It should be consistent from person to person. The experience should be the same. Because we've gotten into situations where a customer calls in and they talk to employee number 1 and get price on tires, and then they come to the store the next day and they talk to employee number 2, and that employee says, "Okay, great, you want these 4 tires. Were you informed about our road hazard warranty yesterday?" And the customer says, "No, not at all. No one mentioned that." Um, that creates some friction. That has to be consistent from employee to employee. So I use restaurants as an example when I'm trying to, I don't want to say dumb it down, but give them an analogy. I'll tell them I have 7 chefs, and if I have a problematic employee, if I'm trying to get someone to fall in line or see things my way, I'll say I have 7 chefs and 6 of them put the cheese on top of the patty when they're making a burger, and then they put the tomato on top of that. Then they do a little drizzle of ketchup, and then it's done. And I have 1 chef who thinks that he can put the tomato down first, and then the cheese, and then the meat. And yeah, it's still a cheeseburger. It still tastes good. But the customer experience is totally divergent from the experience that it would be if they had a different chef.
Right.
I've had, I think, success with explaining it like that.
Okay. So you've got this Google Doc. You say, okay, when they call in, you've got to mention these things. How did you share that with them? You just handed it to them on a piece of paper?
Yeah,
As
basically
this?
just printed it out, said, "Hey,
Okay.
read this. Let me know if you have any questions." Uh, the first
Yeah.
the first thing on this document that I gave them is a disclaimer that I wrote. It says, "This standard operating procedure is not a replacement for your job description. It's not telling you what we do here. It's telling you how we do it." And furthermore, I say that any employee is free to deviate from the standard operating procedure if they have a legitimate business reason to do so.
A little bit of some customization depending on the situation. I like that. Yep.
An
Yep.
example of
Okay.
something like that. Like one of the things that I don't want my technicians or advisors doing is using an alignment lift to do an oil change. And this
Yeah.
was another lesson that I learned from my coach in the 20 group. You don't want to tie up your most expensive piece of equipment in the shop to do a cheap job.
Right.
But we had a car in today. It was a 2012 Ford, some kind of sedan. There were no lift points left on the vehicle. You could not lift this thing with a 2-post lift safely. Everything was totally rusted out and crumbling. And we were, yeah,
Welcome to
exactly.
salt-based roads.
We were
Salt-covered
going to
roads.
do
Yeah.
an
Go
oil
ahead.
change on it. I have 3 alignment lifts. None of them were busy at the time. They didn't even have to ask me. They knew that that was a situation where they could break the rules and put that car on the alignment lift to do the oil change. So yeah, I
Okay.
have rules. I have strict rules, but everyone knows. They know how I think. They know what I would do in that situation. What do we do? Turn the customer away and say,
Yeah.
"We can't change your oil because I don't want to piss off my boss." No, we do it because of what's best for the customer.
Right. That's a good example. That really is. All right. Well, so I think it'd be a great experience to have you back for our November 2025 shop owners panel, where we're going to have you and maybe two other, or definitely two other, maybe three other shop owners to talk about how they started to develop their processes. We've actually had this conversation come up or topic come up several times in the past on other shop owner panels, where some shop owners are really thorough with getting everything in place. We actually had in August 2025 episode SOP about, or shop owner panel about succession planning, about trying to pass the shop to the next generation, or pass the shop or prepare for you to retire, and to sell the shop to somebody else, and the benefits and the reasons that you really need to have all this documentation in place, not just for the end, but, going forward. It was kind of brought to my attention, and a lot of shop owners' attention, that it's kind of like what you said before, right? They're doing the thing, and then they bring on other people to do the thing, and they're not really thinking it from a P&L or a business process standpoint. They just keep doing whatever that job is, the mechanic job, the tire changing job. And so as a result, these things get missed. And now they're in a spot where they own the business. They know they need to work on instead of in the business. And they don't even know where to begin to how to develop those processes. And so I think that's going to be a great topic for us to tackle, on the November. So I'm glad that we already talked about it, but you're going to be joining us. Yes.
And like I mentioned in our phone call the other day, I'm excited because I am neither 0% knowledgeable about it, nor am I 100% knowledgeable about it. I'm in the middle of my journey right now.
Yeah.
So I'll certainly learn from the other people that we talk to, because
right. But you'll also be able to share from the experience of starting with zero. So, because that's fresh, right? Like I've talked to shop owners who did this 20 years ago, and they continue to modify it, because that's actually another step in this process. It's an ever changing series of documents. But it's such a daunting task to start from zero. And so it's fresh in your mind where you started. And so I'm excited to have you join us for that panel. All right. So we talked about, I think one of the fun takeaways from this episode was the number of blind spots that you have in your shop that you are unaware about. And it's the benefit of having outsiders come in and look and show you those blind spots and show you that there are great opportunities to potentially improve or to grow and whatnot. I don't know. Maybe we'll name this episode Blind Spots. I don't know.
I think that's good.
But
I even think, I think everyone should have a coach. Everyone should do networking, because you learn so much from it. But honestly, everyone should listen to the stuff that you put out, even just podcasts in general. I mean, yours specifically, but
absolutely mine specifically. Thank you.
I mean, I was
Yes.
listening to a podcast yesterday. What's his name? Hunt Demarest, a CPA who does podcasts for industry. He had a guest from Sesco on his podcast, and I listened to it, and I thought, oh, I need to change something with how I do payroll. And if I were in the shop all the time working in the business and didn't set aside time to do research, to read about our industry, to listen to podcasts like this, I mean, I'd definitely be in a different space. But it's so hard to get out of the shop. You have to do it.
Now, well, I'm curious, were you multitasking when you were listening to that podcast, or were you sitting down and actually digesting it as if you were reading a book?
That was a bad example because I was just driving to work.
No, that's a great example. That's the most common place people are listening to podcasts.
But I
so
think
that's fine. As long as you can remember, oh, that's a key point, and now you go back to it so you can have a better understanding of it when you get to the office,
to
right?
be
When you get to
fair,
the shop.
it was a 30-minute podcast, and my commute is 7 minutes. So I actually listened to it for 2 full days. Yeah, I thought about it the first 3 days. They had a topic, a very in the weeds HR topic, and like many other things you hear on a podcast. You hear it, you don't write it down because you're driving, and you think, I'm going to do that tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and you have two call offs and 3 late appointments. What you learned. So yeah, listening to the same thing 5 times definitely.
Sometimes pays off. It does. It's true. I've done the same. I've done the same. So there was a time in my career where I had a longer commute, and I found myself listening, and then I found myself like off on a tangent about that topic, and I missed the next 3 topics. Right. So sometimes replaying them
And
pays off.
I get
So
to that point,
yeah.
going back to my coach and this 20 group, they came to my shop, they roasted me. It's kind of like an episode of Bar Rescue. There's a lot of screaming, a lot of why are you doing the way you're doing it? But it can be tempting after you have a meeting like that, or if you listen to a long podcast like this, to think, wow, I just heard 20 great ideas. I'm going to do them all tomorrow. You can't do that. I have the audio recording of the roast of Alex Skander at this shop visit, and I haven't listened to it yet. It's from back in June, specifically because there's so much content in there, but I'm focusing on only 2 things that I remember as being the most important, and that is what we've already discussed, the role of the expediter, the traffic flow master in my shop, and the role of the service advisors to explain DVIs thoroughly before telling techs to do them. So rather than listen to the list of probably 50 things that this group thinks I need to change in my shop and do a poor job at implementing all of them, I'm not even listening to that list until I feel that I've done a good enough job at implementing those 2 really important things. Yeah,
Okay.
might be right.
That's
might be wrong.
fair. That's fair. But you have on your to-do list, like, to go back and listen to that recording, that roast of Alex, after you've accomplished those 2, right? And so maybe that's the process. Maybe it's a matter of, okay, these are the 20 things that we discussed that actually can improve my shop. And maybe you write all 20 down and just full out know that you're not going to focus on the other 19. You're going to tackle the first one, triage and tackle. Or maybe you just write down the most important one and then the name of that particular book, podcast, episode, and whatnot, knowing that you got to re-listen to that as your next item after you tackle that first item. But either way, take one step forward. Don't actually get overwhelmed by the million of different things and million different directions that you're going to need to go to improve and grow your shop. Just take one step forward, I guess. Now, I'm saying all this, and I want to point out to those who are new to the Garage Grit podcast audience. You've heard me say this before, or maybe you haven't, but I'm going to say it right now. I'm not a coach. I'm a digital marketing guy, AA Shop Marketing, a digital marketing company specifically for repair shops, auto repair shops. And that's my background. But the goal of this podcast and the goal of AA Shop Marketing is to try to help as many shops as possible to grow and improve. And so that's why we talk about all these different types of things. And then, of course, if you're interested in trying to get marketing tips or advice, or just find out what your next step is, we always give out our next step. You go to our website. You fill out the form off our website. We'll tell you what after researching your market, we'll tell you what your most important next step is. And of course, if you come on our show, then we give you even more information as far as what your next marketing step is. And again, our goal before even selling our services is just to help as many shops as possible. And then some become customers, some don't, and that's plenty. That's enough. But we've helped a lot of shops in the process. And I'm a big believer. I do think that the small business in the United States is the backbone of our economy. It's the lifeblood of our communities. And I think you, the auto shop owner, are a critical part of that matrix. So thank you for continuing to be a shop owner. Alex, thank you for being a part of this program. I appreciate your time, and I'm looking forward to bringing you back on the panel in November of 2025, talking about processes, talking about documenting those things. Alex, thank you for being here.